Have you ever wondered about the driving forces behind major societal shifts, especially when existing systems seem deeply unfair? Many thinkers have grappled with this question, seeking to understand how societies change and why people might demand radical transformation. Karl Marx advocated for proletarian revolution, primarily because he believed it was the inevitable and necessary outcome of the inherent contradictions and exploitation within capitalism. He saw this revolution as the only path for the working class to liberate themselves from oppression and establish a truly classless, communist society. The core of Marx's argument rested on his theory of historical materialism and the concept of class struggle. He observed that throughout history, societies have been divided into opposing classes, with one class controlling the means of production and exploiting the other. Under capitalism, this conflict was between the bourgeoisie, or the owning class who possessed the factories and capital, and the proletariat, the working class who owned only their labor power. Marx argued that the capitalist system inherently generates immense wealth for the few while impoverishing and alienating the many, creating an unsustainable imbalance that would eventually erupt. To understand this, consider the daily grind within capitalism. Workers create value through their labor, but they only receive a fraction of that value back as wages. The surplus value, the difference between what they produce and what they are paid, is appropriated by the capitalist. Marx believed this exploitation, coupled with recurring economic crises and increasing mechanization displacing workers, would lead to heightened class consciousness among the proletariat. As the working class became more aware of their collective exploitation, they would recognize their common interests and eventually unite to overthrow the capitalist system, seizing the means of production for themselves. A key concept here is the dictatorship of the proletariat, which Marx saw not as an oppressive regime, but as a transitional phase. During this period, the working class would collectively consolidate power to dismantle the remaining elements of the old capitalist order, suppress any counter-revolutionary forces, and reorganize society on socialist principles. This temporary state would pave the way for communism, a society where class distinctions, private property and the means of production, and even the state itself would ultimately wither away. Ultimately, Marx envisioned revolution not as an act of senseless violence, but as a historical necessity and a profoundly emancipatory act. For him, the proletarian revolution was the logical conclusion to centuries of class struggle, promising a future free from exploitation, alienation, and social hierarchy. It was the pathway to a society where human potential could flourish unhindered by economic constraints, built on principles of collective ownership and shared prosperity for all.